Okay, thank you. Welcome back to our public live streaming session of TSHC Board of Directors April 3, 2025 meeting. Thank you for joining us again. We will now motion to approve the closed session decisions. First motion is for approval of item number 9, that was 2024 CEO performance review. Karen, are you going to display that motion or should I read out?
I can display just one moment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. The resolution motion is the Board of Directors approve the following recommendations. Accept TSHC CEO's performance review for the 2024 calendar year. Approve a performance rating for the TSHC CEO for 2024 calendar year and approve a salary adjustment effective January 1st, 2025, which reflects a merit-based increase in consideration of 2024 performance achievement as CEO of TSHC. I need a mover and a seconder.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Warren and seconded by Brenda. All in favor? It's carried. Next motion will be to approve item number 10. That's the 2025 performance management process. So I need a mover and a seconder for this motion to approve the 2025 performance management process as presented.
So moved. It's Linda.
Yeah, Linda, moved by Linda, thank you, and seconded by Warren, thank you very much. All in favor? Carried. Next will be a motion for approval of item number 11. That's the CEO's 2025 performance planner. So I need again a mover and a seconder.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Warren. Thank you, Warren.
I can second.
Second by Jag. Thank you, Jag. All in favor? Carried. Next motion is for item number 12. I'll read out that. Motion that the Board of Directors approve and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to implement the existing TSHC performance management program for management and non-union staff, providing eligible staff with merit-based pay adjustment of between 0% to 4.5% that enable progression through the established salary ranges effective January 1st, 2025. Second, deferred cost of living adjustment for management and non-union staff until both collective agreements between Local 416, COP 79 and TSHC have been ratified to align with the negotiated cost of living adjustment. I again need a mover and a seconder.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Warren and seconded by Brenda. All in favor? Carried. Okay, that is the end of our closed session decisions. We will now move on to item number 16. That's Corporate Governance and Human Resources Committee report. In his absence, the chair, Councillor Krisanthi, has asked Grant Coffey to give a quick update. Over to you, Grant.
Thank you, through the chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll provide a quick update from the Corporate Governance and Human Resources Committee meeting that was held on March the 19th, 2025. Several items were discussed at that meeting, including the CGHRC committee work plan for 2025. There was an update on the people and culture dashboard that was also presented and discussed in that meeting. There was a a detailed update on the TSHC policy work plan for this year and into next year. The draft of the 2024 annual report for Toronto Seniors Housing was also presented at that meeting. And the inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, or IDEA strategy, was presented there. And that item is also on today's meeting for the board's consideration. And in that meeting, there were also a few items held in camera, which most of those items were discussed today as well in camera in today's board meeting. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Grant. Now we will move on to the next agenda item, that's 16A, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Strategy. Over to you, Carol and Gurpreet.
Thank you, through the chair. So the request is for the board to approve the IDEA strategy. Karen, if you can display the presentation on 16A2, please. So this presentation has been updated to include the feedback that was received during the CGHRC meeting. There's not an overall material change to the IDEA strategy, but I think it's worth sort of refining some of the steps in the process. So how did we get here? We started with our IDEA committee, and it was formed in 2023. It was formed with managers and other staff. And mainly the team was looking at, some of the diversity recognition dates, diversity dates, things like that. And then we had our end of 2023, we had our employee engagement and demographic survey. And from that, we were able to get quite a bit of data, demographic, as well as through the staff survey feedback sessions, we were able to get a lot of feedback from staff with respect to how they felt about diversity or IDEA in general. We then participated in a facilitated workshop with Maclean's to further refine our approach towards IDEA. And then Gurpreet Kaur Saudi was sourced as a consultant, an IDEA consultant. And she led leadership team interviews, which rounded out that feedback loop with all TSHC staff. And so that was the basis for how we started to approach the development of the IDEA strategy. And if I can go to the next slide, please. And so when we look at our IDEA strategy, it's really a three-phase plan. So the strategy outlines that. There's some core IDEA pillars, objectives, initiatives for us to be able to develop a work plan or operationalize the TSHC IDEA strategy. There's a diversity lens, which is quite significant within the document, which is guide decision-making on policies, programs, procedures. And then we have our IDEA committee. And the IDEA committee is a staff-led committee that engages with various structures within TSHC, providing feedback and insights. But it is an opportunity for staff to identify, raise concerns, and work with the team in order to have these things addressed. If we go to the next slide, we'll see how we approach the governance. And I think this will kind of give more of a visual in terms of what the intention is. So the IDEA committee, as I said, is staff-led committee with co-chairs. The terms of reference for that committee are included in the document. And they make recommendations to an IDEA advisor. And so this is a proposed role, but the intention is this IDEA advisor will implement the IDEA strategy, operationalize it, create the work plans from the overarching strategy, supports the IDEA committee. This individual will also support through various departments within the organization. So support policy and recruitment practices, operationalize and updates the strategy as necessary. In my role as the Director of People and Culture, the overall lead of the IDEA strategy implementation. And then the leadership team will support the strategy within their respective departments. And then on a biannual basis, we will report back to CGHRC and the board. one of the other things that will happen where the Director of People and Culture or the idea advisor, we will also be seeking, where necessary, third-party advice, counsel with respect to our idea strategy and the work plan. So looking at other SMEs, that can aid or facilitate the implementation of the strategy. Next slide, please. And so it's a 3-phase roadmap. We have immediate actions, so should be 2025 to 2026. But our foundation, building and diversity lens integration, and actually some of that work has already started. And then we look at expanding and deepening, so 2026 to 2027, looking at enhancements, engagement, again, that diversity lens application, and then embedding and sustaining in phase 3. So looking at that through 2028, 2029, integration of accountability and continuous review. And at that point, we will then, examine the strategy and then again, come back to the board with the next iteration. Next slide, please. So as I said, immediate actions. So some of the things are review and align policies with IDEA and human rights standard, and we've already started that work. Deliver IDEA training to staff, emphasizing the application of the diversity lens in daily work. Gurpreet is now actively sourcing training so that we can make recommendations and start to implement that training. Next slide. With phase 2, the expanding and deepening. So some of those key activities would be to develop and implement a mentorship and buddy programs, create a transparent IDEA communication strategy, and then promote IDEA committee activities, ensuring diverse representation and input. And then phase 3. So again, embedding IDEA into all positions, ensuring performance evaluations include IDEA principles, address inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility for persons with disabilities. But again, continuing to evaluate the effectiveness of our program or our strategy, continuing to apply and revise where necessary or introduce more of that diversity lens piece or that IDEA lens piece, all encompassing. And so, when I look at this and just some of the feedback, the intention with the overall, I know there's, we will be addressing through the work plan, the implementation strategy, what that looks like, as opposed to sort of 30,000 feet, what does it look like on the ground? And then also ensuring that our plan, which is identified in the strategy, removes systemic barriers, and we continually look at this strategy with a full lens of the overall organization. Karen, next slide. I think that's it. So are there any questions for me?
I have
Brenda?
one question, Chair.
Oh, Linda, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I just didn't see Brenda. Carol, you mentioned that that Gurdeep is sourcing training.
Yes, Gurpreet Kaur Sodhi. So she's our acting IDEA advisor.
Okay.
And so he is compiling a list of trainings. We're looking at who it's suitable for in the organization, delivery modes, but making sure that we have all the training that we need to roll out our IDEA, to support our IDEA strategy.
Yeah, I was just a little concerned that to find the right training that aligns with this very comprehensive approach that you have. Is there any concerns about that? And is there any obvious, is there an alignment with the city or something? Because a big part of your step one is training. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that you were still sourcing training.
So through the chair, we are looking at foundational training that we have. So some of it could be offered through our LMS, some of it could be offered in person. So when I say sourcing, we want to make sure that we have comprehensive training and that training plan to roll out. We know what the training should include, but who is the delivery mechanism or mode is what we're looking at right now. So for instance, we know that things like microaggressions, and at the basic, we need to roll those out. But then as we start to look at different roles within the organization, like leadership, leading through an idea lens, what training do we need to provide our leaders to make sure that they have that? So we are going through that process of continuing to source and also identifying who we can partner with to deliver that training.
Uh,
So
Brenda?
through the chair, Linda, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I'm confident that the training that we will be providing will be adequate to support the strategy.
Yeah, thanks,
Uh,
Carol.
ju-
Maybe
just-
keep us informed on that, because that is it's a big piece, and you might want to think about some of the hospitals have developed very comprehensive programs in this area, like thinking about where you like to get the LMS up and running. I just wouldn't want this to be actually a delay in a really good strategy that you put together.
Thank you.
Brenda?
Yeah, and training to what end? To follow up on Linda's comments. The other question I have is a practical one. Gurpreet is a staff person or is she a consultant? I'm just not certain her role.
So through the chair, Gurpreet was brought on initially for a 3-month contract to actually combine all our efforts to date and develop the strategy which she has. We have
Okay.
now extended her contract with us so that she can continue to support finalizing the strategy. Sorry, with the feedback from the CGHRC and the board. And then what we will be looking at is, once it's all been finalized, approved, Gurpreet is still working on some other items to support the strategy in the background. And then Tom and I will work towards, securing an idea advisor to then continue to move the work forward, because it's critical to support.
Well, that was going to be my next question, as you mentioned, advisor proposed. So this is another staff position?
This
Or
would
this-
be a staff position.
So not a consultant position?
Through the chair, no. We're looking
Okay.
at this as the staff position.
And what is the reality, the practicality of this? You think we'll get approved for this position? I mean, we've got some other positions that have been held in abeyance for a couple of years now. So are we assuming that we'll be able to find funds for this position?
So through the chair, we are working at some of the options that would be available to us to source the headcount that will support the work.
Tom? Tom? I
Tom?
see.
Yes, yeah. Through the chair to the board, I think one of those options that we're looking at right now is the, in terms of our service delivery agreements with TSHC, what ability is there for support from TSHC to move the idea strategy forward? And then I do think as part of our 2026 request to council, it could be specifically around an advisor. So that is what we're trying to move through at this point.
And we don't have that resource within our current staff?
Absolutely, no. We have we have
Okay.
this. The way we're even able to get to where we are today was because we knew when we saw that we had a surplus moving towards the end of 2024. That's
Okay,
when we brought on Gurpreet. So
okay.
that otherwise it would have been an extreme challenge with the current staffing, even to bring it where we did today.
Yeah, no, yes. Well, that's why my question about practicality, will we find?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, it's very valid.
yeah. And that person will then help with setting of goals and outcome measures?
Yes.
Through the chair, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you then.
Carol, I have a question. I believe or I understand other organizations related to the city have also sourced or are in the process of sourcing training on similar lines. Are you in touch with them, or like TTC is one of them?
Through the chair, at this point, no, I'm not in touch with TTC, but we are looking at best practices for idea training, but I can liaise. I have liaised with some individuals at the City of Toronto early on, looking at CABR and some of the activities that they were taking. So, there's nothing preventing me from reaching out to anyone else throughout the city to try to align or identify best practices and implement.
Okay, thank you.
A follow-up from that, if I may?
Brenda?
Yeah.
Brenda, yeah.
I think, yeah, I'm a little concerned about delay and spending 6 months to a year for best practices when I think we actually know some of these things already and other people are doing it. I don't want to be recreating the wheel when we don't have to, right? And the one piece I'd like to put some attention on is cultural competence, because what we have is a situation of intercultural, interracial groupings, whether it's staff or the tenants. Okay, so it's learning to be culturally competent and learning how to manage people if you're a staff person, and learning how to manage the tenants who may have their own personal biases and behaviors. So I think that the cultural competence piece often has gotten ignored because everyone's into the ideological piece. I'm a practical person. I'm really interested in outcomes and goals and what are we aiming for and what skills we can give staff and to manage these things. And in my experience, managing 50 staff with huge cultural diversity and of course conflicts, right? It's a real skill, and it's a specific skill to learn how to manage people of different backgrounds, because that's the new workforce of the future. And that's our current workforce of the present. So I don't want to lose sight of that cultural competence training while the other things may be valid. I'm loath to just leave it at the level of ideology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Gurpreet. We are looking for a motion to approve this item. May I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors approve TSHC's inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility strategy as presented?
So
I need a mover, moved by Brenda and seconded by Linda. All in favor? Carried. Now, before we adjourn, any other matters any members would like to discuss? Having had none, I think it's time for us to for adjournment. May I ask someone to move that we terminate the board directors April 3rd meeting?
Vice Chair, sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. I believe Jim had his hand up when you asked if there was something. Jim, did you raise your hand?
Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I was just going to second the idea of the value of cultural competence training that Brenda brought up.
Okay.
It's made a world of difference in our service to the community we serve at the Community Health Center. And I think it's really important that staff receive some form of cultural awareness training. That was all. Sorry.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Okay. Can we have a motion to terminate the meeting?
So moved,
I need a
Mr.
mover.
Chair.
Moved by Warren, and I need a seconder. Seconded by Jim. All in favor? Carried. I would like to thank all of you for your time today, and also an extra special thank you, Karen, Grant, and Linda, for the extra work you did today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lawrence.
Lauren.
Thank you for taking
Thanks
the
to you
chair.
too, Lawrence. You did a great
Thank you.
job.
Good
Thank you,
job.
Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
After a long
everybody.
time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend coming
Yeah,
up.
thank you. You too, Jim.
Hey, Jim, take care.